What's up everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sebastian and today at Massive Sound Productions I want to start with my big comparison of all the custom guitars I realized together with different luthiers in the last 5 years. Today's comparison video of all my custom guitars, my Ardas, my KD, Overload, Skervesens and Siggi Brauns, is something I wanted to do since quite a while, and actually took me a couple of weeks to think about how I want to structure it, which details I believe are the most important ones for such a comparison, and what my key messages should be, as I wanted to transpose all the experiences I made over the last 5 years while being in contact with a couple of custom guitar companies and luthiers, and after realizing all these custom guitar projects as useful as possible for you guys. For this I came up with a rating system where I give school grades from 1 being the best to 6 being the worst in 5 different categories, which I believe are the most relevant ones when rating a custom guitar and for a potential decision on going on such an exciting but also pretty expensive journey. The 5 categories which I believe are the most important ones and which give an overall great overview on the strengths and potential weaknesses of the different luthiers are the overall craftsmanship, which probably should be pretty self-explaining. Then second, skills and details, in which I try to evaluate things like the variety of different custom options and all the small details some of the luthiers offer in their guitars. The third category is communication, where I want to talk about my experience on how easy it was to get in contact with the luthier, how fast they are with their answers, and if they take into account your personal wishes as a customer. Fourth category is about the final quality control and service, like intonation, string height, which probably has at least a little bit of an overlap with my first category about the craftsmanship. But I still wanted to keep it separate due to its importance. And last but not least, the fifth category, which is the overall value for money, showing you how much you get for what you are paying for. For the overall rating, the average of the 5 categories is taken, with the little exception that the first grade on the overall craftsmanship is rated double, as I find it the most important one from all of these. But before we start with the comparison, let me add 2 additional comments. The first thing I wanted to point out is that this whole comparison, all the grades I give and comments I will make, of course are only reflecting my own opinion and the experiences I made, which sometimes were really great, but also sometimes not as I would have wished for. I'm sure some of them will also be slightly controversial and might lead to discussions which I'm happy to have with you guys and look very much forward to. And second, you might have asked yourself already why there isn't a category on the very important point, the sound of the guitars. The reason for that is that in my experience, the sound of a guitar is mainly defined by the choices you make on the woods and pickups, and less dependent on the luthier you choose. And therefore, for example, a Skervesen, mainly made of, let's say, maple and mahogany with bare knuckle aftermath pickups, will very likely sound pretty similar to a similar constructed Arda guitar made from the same wood choice and with same pickups. Before we now finally start with the comparison of all these insane guitars, let's hear how some of them sound in a full mix of my newest song. For the guitar sounds, I used the Arch-type Gojira and 14 NTS plugins by Neural DSP. Bass and drums were programmed using Groove Bass by Submission Audio and Superior Drummer 3 by Toontrack, combined with some additional layer samples for the kick and the shells. So let's start with our first category, the overall craftsmanship, which in my view is the most important one. Arda, KD and Skervesen we can tick off pretty quick here, as these three just do a fantastic job, and what you get here is nothing less than spotless and a piece of art, which sometimes even feels to be too perfect when thinking about how much handwork flows into making these guitars. On all three, things like bindings, fret ends, fingerboard rounding, coloring, finish, gluing of the woods, wiring, installing of the hardware and so on were done spotless, and it's just a joy to take these perfectly made axes into your hand and play them. When putting them next to each other, there might still be a very tiny advantage for KD and Skervesen against the Arda. For example, when looking at the preparation of the frets, where the Skervesen is probably the best guitar I have seen so far. Which is the reason why I rated the first two with a best in class 1 and the Arda with a still remarkable 1-. But that's complaining on a very high level. On the rating for Overload and Siggi Braun, it unfortunately gets much more difficult, as both afforded some slips in the craftsmanship. Based on the problems I already showed you in my full review of my Overload, and with the different imperfections, for example on the neck, the bad setting of the bridge, or the not as nicely processed binding, the rating for the rear is a 3 in this category. Even more difficult it gets with Siggi Braun, which was the first custom guitar experience I made a couple of years ago. Started with buying separate Siggi Braun axes on the used market and ended with ordering 3 different custom guitars between 2018 and 2019 myself. Especially on all the guitars I bought used, I made some pretty good experiences. These were all well-built instruments, not as perfect as for example a Skervesen, KD or Arda is made, but still pretty satisfying, and without the experience I made on my custom guitar projects, I would rate Siggi Braun with an overall good B grade. But let me show you some picture examples on the overall shape of how I initially received my 3 custom guitars. From horribly prepared frets, which looked like they have been played since 15 years, to scratches and even small dings in the finish and the neck, I experienced pretty much everything bad you can do, and had to send 2 of the guitars back to get it fixed. Actually not only once, but even twice, until it was fixed in an okayish way, which was still not the level you would expect from such expensive guitars. Actually, after they were still not in a shape I would expect from such expensive guitars, I gave up sending them back for another correction. If you now think I only had some bad luck and this is an absolute exception, I have to tell you that 2 great friends of mine made the exact same disappointing experience. So having in mind both the good experience with my guitars I bought secondhand and the horrible experience with my own customs, I can only give Siggi a kind rating of 3 here. Let's jump into the second category, skills and details. Under this category, I wanted to summarize not only the possible custom options you have available building your dream guitar and to tweak it to your liking, like for example choosing the exact combination of woods, selecting your individual finish color or even your own guitar design, but also how well these options were realized. And in addition include into my evaluation all these small extra details which come as a standard, which you usually only see when looking closer at the guitar and which directly puts a smile on your face. Let's start chronological with Arda guitars, where almost basically can realize everything you can dream of. From super complex fretboard inlays, any finish color you would like, to a full custom-made guitar design, everything is possible. And the good thing is he absolutely nails what you are looking for. In addition, almost guitars always have a lot of these nice little extra details I was mentioning before, like the little plate on the back of the headstock showing the building number or the recessed cavity cover, or the output check, to only mention some examples. All these points sum up to a very well-deserved 1 minus. Coming to KD guitars, there is a similar great variety of customization options to make most of you out there more than happy. Similar to Arda, you can realize your own design if you want, or at least tweak an existing design from KD to your liking, which for example I did on my turbo build. Even though you might not have as many color or freaking inlay options like on an Arda, there is still a pretty nice range to choose from, and the detail level with adding thin veneers for contrast between, for example, top and body wood, a perfectly crafted recession of the output jack, or the classy, made by the hands of KD writing on the back deserves a great B rating in this category. Compared to Arda or KD, Overload is a different type of beast, where you choose your preferred model and then customize it by using a predefined template of options with an overall good variety to customize your personal Overload dream guitar. In my opinion, the overall custom options you have are still pretty satisfying. It can't fully compare to some other luthiers in this price range, like the ones I already mentioned, and there's still room for improvement, not only on adding more custom options, but also on having some more of these surprising little details which some of the other guitar companies offer. Therefore, I will give Overload a respectable 3+. Even though Skervesen is much more grown as a guitar company and obviously has, similar to Overload, its established designs where you can choose from, there is still quite a lot you can customize within these predefined fields of guitars. So as long as you like one of their designs as it is, you can pretty much fully tweak it to your liking with any color combinations possible, or even a hybrid top made of both wood and epoxy, different fretboard inlays, bindings, etc. Adding to this all the small little details you get anyhow without any upcharge, like the little foam above the nut to dampen the strings, a wooden cavity and nut cover, or a recessed output jack, I decided to go for a grade of 2+ here. Siggi Brauns, as a long existing player on the custom guitar market, can realize pretty everything you would like to have. Especially his color finishes are extremely impressive and in my opinion one of the best on the market. On the other side, there is the huge downside where basically every small custom option you choose is extremely expensive and needs to be thought out well. In addition, the result not always is exactly like expected, as he claims more artistic freedom than other luthiers do, and on my custom guitar projects he also didn't hold any consolidation with me during the build process, even on some points I asked him to do. Still, the customization options you have building your own Siggi Brauns is very broad, and therefore the B rating in this category is very well deserved. Having a look at the third category, communication, where I want to answer how frequent the communication was, how easy it was to get in contact with the people there, how many of my wishes have been realized exactly as I wanted to have them, and last but not least, the cherry on the cake, how many additional information and even pictures I got during the building process. Olmo from Arda Guitars might not be the best communicator on earth, but he still does his best to keep you updated as a customer, and every single wish I had on my customs couldn't have been realized any better. Are there luthiers who will send you updates more frequently and potentially include more pictures? Yes, they are. But the most important thing is he will hear what you are saying, give you helpful hints and realize all your wishes to your liking. Therefore, I give Arda a proud 2 on communication. KD really shines when it comes to frequent updates with loads of pictures, and already before he starts building your dream guitar, he will discuss with you each possible step super carefully and in great detail, so you feel in great hands from the very first beginning. Also during the building process, he will get in contact with you on every critical step, asking for confirmation and give advice if he might see some room for improvement. Talking about improvement, I actually can't find any room for communicating even better, and therefore Costardin deserves a perfect 1 here. Coming to overload, where you can directly feel the difference between a luthier who is doing real custom work and someone who is specialized on factory-like guitar development based on some custom specs. Both the communication before starting the custom build as well as during was flattering at best, and sometimes I had to wait for weeks to get answers on my questions. On the positive side, I need to highlight that at least my initial specs have been realized the way I wanted them, and all in all I received 2 updates including pictures during the building process. But nevertheless, there's still a lot room for improvement, and therefore I can only give a satisfactory 4+. Skervesen on the other side was a really positive surprise to me, with their great and frequent communication, especially for being already in comparison to the other luthiers we talked today, bigger guitar company. The initial discussion about the specs for my Raptors was on point, and what you can also expect is a regularly monthly update with some pictures showing you the progress of your custom, and in which they sometimes even ask for feedback, especially on the finish color. So far, that's for sure the best experience I made on a, let's call it, semi-custom guitar build I realized, and therefore I see it on par with the communication from Arda, and I'm happy to give Skervesen a well-deserved grade of 2. Last but not least, Siggi Brauns, where I was extremely disappointed about the communication, especially after meeting him in person in his workshop before the start of my 3 customs. The experience not only I did myself, but also some of my friends made was that after the custom build was legally confirmed and the initial payment was done, the communication reduced to more or less 0. Even worse, some of the initially defined specs and agreements I made with Siggi he forgot totally, which led to, for example, a wrong neck shape, bigger than I wanted, or wrong frets, nickel instead of stainless steel. I can still live with a lacking communication if the end product is as expected, even though it reduces the great experience of such a custom guitar build by quite a bit. But what is an absolute no-go for me is when a bad communication leads to problems I just described. Therefore, with a heavy heart, I can't give a better grade than a 4- here. So this was the first part of my custom guitar comparison video, which I hope you enjoyed and which potentially give you some guidance on what to look for in your own custom guitar, or might even help you in your decision for one of the mentioned luthiers. If you like my video today and you don't want to miss the second part of my comparison or any other upcoming videos, don't forget to support my channel by leaving a like or by subscribing. If you have any questions or want to share your thoughts with me, please leave me a comment. I appreciate your feedback a lot and always try to answer as soon as I can. So that's all for today. Thank you again very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon on my channel.